Hello yogis, and welcome to our Hatha head to toe sequence. So I've designed this class to be just a really good head to toe stretch, be something really good to do first thing in the morning. Just want to get all the creaky bits out. Also, maybe if you've been sitting at a desk all day or working on a computer, or maybe you had to drive a lot that day, we're going to try to get into as many parts as possible to address some of the more common achy and stiff areas of the body. You will need a couple of blocks, a yoga strap, and as always, I encourage you to sit either on a sit cushion. If you don't have an actual yoga sit cushion, please just fold up a blanket. So we just want to bring our sit bones to the very front of that prop, almost like you're about to fall off. And as always, this is done to just help us to sit taller in our space and to not slump and round into our back. So we're just going to get a nice little anterior tilt here and allowing our hips to stay higher than the knees. Now, this pose, Sukhasana, or easy sit as it's translated, is not always very easy if your hips aren't very open. So you could choose to do a butterfly seat here, propping up underneath the knees if they're high up, or you could even keep your legs extended. If you're going to keep your legs extended, let's just bring some activeness into the lower half of the body. So feet active, toes pointing up to the sky. And try to think of activating your quadriceps, so your knees lifting towards your hips. So finding your most comfortable seat. And then let's think about those two opposing forces that are at play in the body that we can really sort of tune into when we're doing a seated practice. So from the waist down, our energy is grounding and rooting into the earth. And then from the waist up, our energy is upward lifting. So like to equate that, as always, to the analogy of a tree, roots moving into the ground so that the tree can grow tall. So if I came along and pulled a string right up through the crown of your head and tried to make space between your vertebrae, shoulders moving away from the ears, and then we want our shoulder blades to come at rest on the back. So wherever your legs happen to be, just bring your hands back behind your knees. And then closing the eyes here or softening the gaze down into your lap. As always, we're going to check first with the body. So we just want to bring our awareness inside the body and just start to explore our inner spaces, looking for areas where maybe we are holding on to some stress. So stress manifests in the body as physical tension. So there are some typical holding spots in an adult body, and we'll just do a quick check through these areas. So space between the eyebrows. So some people walk around with a permanent number 11 furrowed into their forehead. So smooth out those worry lines on the forehead. Think of your eyebrows drifting away from each other, drifting towards your ears. And then unclench your back teeth. Ideally, we'd like that lower jaw to just relax and hammock away from upper jaw. Mouth stays closed. And then letting the tongue release and relax into the lower palate of the mouth. And again, shoulders. This is a really big one, especially for women. Women do tend to carry a lot of their stress through the tops of their shoulders. So melting shoulders away from ears. You may have to remind yourself to do that many, many times. And then even thinking about softening through the belly. So culturally, we're always being told to suck in our gut. And we just want our belly to get nice and soft here so that when that diaphragm kicks in and starts to play, we have lots of room for our diaphragmatic movement. And then lastly, just thinking of softening in and around those hip sockets. So what we're really doing is giving our body permission to release and let go of the things that it may be storing for us. So let's now take another scan through the body, different intention this time. We are looking for areas of the body where maybe there is pain or injury, or some sort of limitation. Maybe your body is in healing mode. So just let your awareness rest in those areas of the body where you just might have to be a little more careful today. So as always, we want to be listening to the body. It's always communicating with us. Form usually comes as physical sensations. So sharp stabbing, shooting, burning, electrical, tingling sensations are a no. You want to be backing out of anything that is causing those sorts of sensations to present themselves. And luckily, we have a built-in guide. It's called your breath. And it will never lie to you. If you cannot breathe into something, if that inhale and exhale cannot flow, then you are in a place where your body is no longer feeling safe and you are triggering the fight or flight nervous system. So there's absolutely no benefit to stretching with a fight or flight nervous system. We do need to be into our good nervous system to reap any benefits. So let's now bring our awareness into the breath, because this is what takes us over into our parasympathetic nervous system. So rest, digest, and repair mode. So we'll do that very simple breath awareness practice where you just bring all of your awareness into your nostrils. And you're just observing the air flowing in and out of your nose. So there's nothing special we need to do here. There's no correction necessary. We're not judging the breath. Just simple observation of air flowing in and out of the nostrils. So awareness using your senses. So maybe a sound of the breath that you can anchor into, or it may be that slightly cooler air on the inhale that you can notice is slightly different on the exhale, a little bit more warm as it passes down over the lips. So just try to use as many senses as possible to observe the breath. And when we bring our awareness in, we automatically start to breathe better. It really is just that simple. So our breath is going to start to smooth itself out and slow itself down. Now let's expand the awareness. Next inhale, I want you to follow it into the body, see where it goes. Next exhale, follow the path of the breath out of the body. See where your body softens and surrenders. So on the inhales, there will be a sense of space being created within the body, and on the exhales, feeling the body move back in on itself, releasing tension. And again, don't try to force any of this to happen. We're just allowing the breath to unfold naturally. Now let's shift our awareness to the belly. And if it's necessary to place a hand over the navel to really connect with the movement of the belly, do so. And we're just going to observe how on the inhale, the belly slightly pushes out. And on the exhale, belly moves back towards the spine. Now for some people, this could be such a subtle movement that they really do need the hand there to just start to observe any movement whatsoever. And for others, if you've been practicing yoga for a while, really start to notice when you've switched over to that diaphragmatic breath. So as always, diaphragmatic breath is where we want to practice from. Grounding us, keeping us anchored into our good nervous system, and letting us keep an awareness of the body and how it's feeling as we start to move into different postures. So just take one last observation of your breath cycle here and notice how it's really slowed down and lengthened out, and it might be this really nice balanced inhale and exhale now. And just tell yourself you're going to keep your mind anchored on this breath. And then allowing the eyes to blink open, light coming back in. Just take your hands back behind your hips. Just release whatever seat you took. And let's just take a nice shake out through that lower half. And then we'll start with some ankle circling. So circling both directions. And we are going to start today in our neck. And our ankles and our neck are actually really connected to each other through our fascial highways. And then let's just do some pointing and flexing. So it is actually really crucial for your neck that your ankles can stay mobile. And unfortunately, when we're in winter season and we're wearing all those bigger boots that sort of hold the ankle captive, ankle mobility might start to become a little bit more of an issue. So definitely want to keep those ankles moving. So come back into a seat that works for you, whatever that looks like today. Just reground those sit bones onto the front of your sit cushion and come back to that tall but relaxed spine. So the first thing we're going to do is bring our cervical spine into alignment with the rest of the spine. So it's just a really nasty side effect of all the phone use, computer use in our modern world, that our heads are coming out of alignment. Our cervical spine is no longer in alignment with the rest of the spine. And this is not such a great thing for the body. So it's now known that every inch that your chin moves forward out of alignment adds 10 pounds of pressure to your cervical vertebra. Not ideal. So we're going to do this little exercise where we are going to try to help ignite the muscles in the back of our neck, which now are getting overstretched and becoming weak. We're going to try to ignite those muscles to remind them of their job, which is holding the cervical spine in alignment with the rest of the spine. So you're just going to use the small end of the block here, and you're going to bring it right back behind your skull. So there's that bony ridge at the right back of your head. That's the occipital ridge, and the block needs to be above that. You're just going to hold on to the block with your hands, and we're going to do what's called a isometric contraction. So when you have an isometric contraction, you actually aren't moving, but you're firing muscles anyway. So we're going to use an opposing force here. So on your next inhale, think of moving your head back into that block, but don't let the head go anywhere. So you're going to oppose that force with the block and your arms. So your biceps get a little workout here. And then release. Now usually after the first time we do that, you don't notice anything. Second and third time, you might start to notice something. So let's bring that block back again above the occipital ridge. Next inhale, pushing the head back while we oppose that force with the block in our arms. You should feel your posterior neck muscles ignite. Now release, just relax. Now for some people, they already start to feel this drawing back of the head. Ears starting to come over top of shoulders. Third time is for sure charmed, and in yoga we love to do everything 3 times. So let's bring that block back. Inhale, isometric contraction here. Ignite all those posterior neck muscles. And release. Take your block off to the side and just notice the head. Should just feel like it's floating back all by itself. And now those ears are lined up over the shoulders. So from here, let's just start to bring some movement now into our neck. So we're going to tuck our chin down towards our chest. And then we're going to let the chin travel over towards the right ear. It's making a little half circle here. And then back through center, over to the left. So we're just going to slowly make these nice half circle movements. And just letting your breath flow as normal. So it's not really ideal for most people to make full circles with the head, though some people can. And you want to be mindful if you have any sort of positional vertigo or dizziness when moving the head, just to take it slow. So just noticing how that feels. And then letting your chin come back through center and bringing the chin to level. Now we're going to just start to rotate the head on its axis. So we're just going to turn, look to the right, only as far as available in your neck, and then come back through center and look to the left. And we're going to keep going, rotating our heads on the axis of the spine. So this is C1, C2 vertebra, working together. And just do nice, smooth, fluid movements. We're not in a hurry. We're just noticing how the neck is moving. Bringing some movement in. So neck mobility, really important to our lymphatic system, because we've got a lot of lymphatic vessels in the neck. And then of course we have the carotid arteries. And we just want everything to keep moving. Next time your head's back through center, now we're going to start to drop the chin down to the chest. Bring the chin back through center and then lift the chin to the sky. Just watch that those shoulders don't creep up as you lift that chin up. And we're just going to continue here, nodding our head really slow, being really mindful, not only of the sensations that arise as we bring this movement in, but just making sure you're not pushing into any crunchy sounds. Slow, fluid movement. And then let's let our chin come back to level. And now let's just bring a little bit of static stretching in. So just going to drop the right ear to the right shoulder. And then you can take the left hand out and just tap the fingers against the earth. That's just going to allow the stretch to travel down through those side scalenes and come into the top of the shoulder. And I'll just breathe here, stay a little bit longer. And just letting the left hand come back into lap, head coming back to center, nice and slow, and then tipping the opposite way. So left ear to left shoulder to start the stretch. And then right hand walking out away from the hip, tenting the fingers against the earth, letting the stretch travel down through those side scalenes again and into the top of the shoulder joint. Breath is flowing. And then let the right hand come back to the lap. Head comes back to center. Let's interlace the hands. Draw the hands now back behind the skull, right where we had that block earlier. Sitting nice and tall here in your space. So we want to really align those ears over shoulders again. And then draw your elbows forward. And now tuck your chin. So we're getting back into those muscles in the back of the neck, but we're also bringing in our upper trapezius, or upper back muscles, which do connect up into that occipital ridge. So your trapezius are very large muscles in the back. There's an upper section of them. Those fibers do move up through the back of the neck and connect into that bony ridge where we have a lot of muscle connections. And then we have that big superficial back line of fascia traveling through here too. So lifting the chin, elbows back out to the side, release the hands, take them down into your lap. And now we're going to try to get into this big muscle in the front of the throat. It's called your platysma. It's connected from your lower jaw all the way down to your collarbone. So we have a little knack of getting in there. So again, keeping shoulders relaxed and away from the ears. You're going to lift your chin to the sky. And then once you've got your head in an appropriate position for you, you're going to open your mouth really wide, like you're silent screaming. And now close the mouth. And you should feel the platysma activate. So this is also a really good movement or exercise if you feel like your neck is a little saggy. So opening the mouth wide and then closing the jaw. That is actually how you exercise your platysma. So if you feel like you need a little help in that area, you could do that every morning, 10, 15 times. And then bringing the head back to center. Let's release whatever seat we took and just release those hips for a moment. Little shake out through the lower half. And let's drop back down to those ankles. And just do a circle in each direction and then pointing and flexing. All right, let's drop down to the toes. So the toes are super important in yoga. They're also really important just you going around your everyday movement patterns. So our feet are our foundation, and we really want to keep our feet moving well, especially the toes. So when we lose mobility in the toes, then we start to walk differently. And of course, that has repercussions throughout the whole body. So let's start with some toe abductions. Just keep your feet active, toes pointing up to the sky. Next, inhale, see if you can spread your toes away from each other. And then exhale, let them move back to their original position. Inhale, abducting, toes spread away from each other. Exhale, relax and release. Last one, inhale, spread those toes. And exhale, release. Now let's try a little toe flexion. So inhale, curl the toes down towards the earth. Exhale, release. Inhale, curl those toes down. Exhale, release. And one more time. Good. Now that was you using active movements. Now let's do a little passive toe work. So I just want you to bring your right foot closer in. So bringing your right ankle to rest on your left thigh, just above your knee if you can. This is also going to start to open up into this right hip. And we're going to take the fingers of the left hand and separate the toes. So this is passive toe abduction. You're now doing the work with your hands. So why do we want to spread our toes? Why do we do that in a lot of yoga? Definitely more advanced yoga poses. if you see someone doing them, the toes are spread. Well, your transverse arch, right? So that's right across the ball of your foot. That's a very important arch in your foot. And we wear shoes a lot. And let's say you're going into winter and you're wearing boots all the time. Your transverse arch starts to get compressed. The long bones in the foot start to get compressed. It's going to have consequences for how your toes move. And anything that happens in the feet eventually refers up the rest of the body. So a lot of times you could have a hip issue. It actually started in your feet, or it started in your ankles. So let's start to work into the ankle a little bit while we're passively abducting these toes. So we're going to pull the toes away from our shin. So this is called plantar flexion. We're getting into the top of that ankle joint. And now we're going to do some dorsiflexion. We're going to push the toes back towards the shin. You could inhale, pull the toes away. Exhale, push them back towards the shin. Let's do one more. Inhale, pull away. Exhale, push back towards the shin. Relax the foot now. Take it out of plantar or dorsi. Just take it to neutral. And then let's just do some circles while we're here. Both ways. All right. Release your fingers from your toes and release your right hip. Drop your awareness down into your feet. You should feel like your right foot feels slightly different than your left. It should feel less tense because we've taken all that compression out of the long bones and we found some space through that transverse arch. So let's see if we can even things up by bringing the left ankle in, resting it on the right thigh. Take your right fingers now and spread those toes away. Passive abduction again of the toes. So making space through that transverse arch. Just let your breath flow. And then let's start to work a little bit into that plantar dorsiflexion of the ankle joint. So again, pulling the toes away from the shin. You should feel that nice stretch through the top of your ankle. And then exhale, push those toes back towards the shin. So you bring compression now into the top of your ankle. Inhale, pull the toes away. Exhale, push them back. One more. Inhale into plantar flexion. Exhale, dorsiflexion. Good. Let the foot just be neutral now. The ankle's neutral. And we'll take a couple of circles in both directions. Back into those ankles. Release your fingers and release your left hip. Drop your awareness back down into your feet. How do they feel? Hopefully, like you found some symmetry between right and left. All right, come back into a seat that works for you. Now we're gonna do a seated cat-cow. So you could have your legs still extended. You could do it in butterfly legs, or you come back into easy sit. So find what works for you in your body today. Reground into that sit cushion, finding tall space. So again, hands behind the knees wherever the knees happen to be. So we're going to wake up our spine, wake up our spinal fluid with some flexion and extension movement. So the movement is going to be centered around your heart space. So on your inhale, I want you to imagine I came along and there's a string coming right out of the center of your chest, right in the middle of your heart, and I pull that string forward and your heart moves forward. Now if it's okay in your neck, you can lift the chin up to the sky. So this brings extension into your spine now. And then on our next exhale, we're going to tuck our chin. We're going to collapse into the sternum, so round into the upper back and slightly lean back. There's our flexion. Next inhale, heart comes forward. Chin lifts, maybe. Extension. Exhale, tuck chin, collapse and round through the back, slightly leaning back. Extension. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, we're opening up through that heart space. Exhale, we are collapsing and rounding. 1 more. Inhale, heart moves forward, chin lifts. Exhale, chin tucks round through the back. Good. Coming back to sitting nice and tall. Let's drop our hands down by our hips and start to move into some lateral flexion now. So inhale, right arm to 12. Exhale, side bend to your left. Let's pause here for a few breaths. So side bending is really important, and our lower back muscles called the QLs or quadratus lumborum, this is what they need. They need side bending. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Really breathe into those right ribs on that inhale. Next inhale, you can come back to center, take that right arm down. Inhale, left arm to 12 o'clock. Exhale, side bend to your right. And again, think of breathing into the left side ribs now. So if you're doing these practices in the morning, this is a great way to wake up your spine, because we're bringing in the full 6 degrees of movement or freedom that is available in a healthy spine. Let's come back on the inhale to 12 o'clock. Exhale, hand down. So now we're going to do a little bit of twisting. We're going to inhale, arms to shoulder height, palms turned down. Exhale, you're going to twist to the right side of your mat. Now you might be able to bring your left hand to your right knee and your right hand back behind your right glute. Think of growing tall in your spine on those inhales. Exhales, maybe you can twist a little more. So this is some nice thoracic twisting. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Next, inhale, coming back through center, arms back to shoulder height. Exhale, twist to your left. So again, maybe right hand can come to left knee, left hand behind left glute. Inhale, you're tall. Exhale, you are exploring how much twist is available. Now, you might be different on each side. So just notice how things feel or where you're feeling things. Stay with your breath. And bring yourself back through center and hands down. All right, let's move into our shoulder girdle. We're going to go through a little fun flow called 3-part Taoist breath, and it's really ideal for moving through your entire shoulder girdle and then exploring where your shoulders are attached. So your shoulders are attached to your chest, they're attached to your upper back, and there's an attachment through the ribs also. So this whole entire upper body from rib cage up sort of works together and is all connected together. And if you have something going on, for example, in a shoulder, or maybe you have something going on in your wrist, for even example, everything is connected. So through those fascial connections, if you have an injury in one place, it's going to refer and start to move up through those fascial lines. So let's bring our hands down back behind our hips, beside our hips, and come back into an awareness of the flow of breath. So we want to move with the breath. And this is like a little mini vinyasa. So we're linking breath and movement. So it's very mindful. So next inhale, hands come to the sky, palms come to touch. Exhale, you're going to draw the hands down to heart height and push the walls away. Turn your palms up. Next inhale, fingertips come into shoulder caps. Next exhale, you're going to tuck your chin, push your palms forward as you round into that upper back. Drop the fingertips to the earth. Next inhale, lift the backs of the hands up to the sky as you grow tall through your spine. And exhale, hands back down to the earth by your hips. So there's one flow through. Let's do two more. Inhale, hands to sky, palms come to touch. Exhale, hands to heart height, push walls away, palms turn up. Inhale, fingers to shoulder caps. Exhale, tuck chin, push palms forward as we round that upper back. Drop the fingers. Inhale, backs of the hands to the sky as we grow tall in our spine. And exhale, hands back down to the earth. One more. Inhale. Palms touch. Exhale, push the walls away. Palms up. Inhale, fingers to shoulders. Tuck chin, exhale, round through that back. Drop the fingers. Inhale, grow tall as you take the hands back to the sky. And exhale, hands down. Good. Release your hips. Take another little shake out. Grab your strap. Come back to a comfortable seat, whatever works for you. Now, let's take our straps and we're going to hold the strap taut between our hands and taking the hands wider than shoulder width apart. And you're just going to let the hands drop down towards the earth. So we're going to work on some front raises through the shoulders, through the deltoids. So we're going to inhale. Now maybe you have to stop here, or maybe you can keep going to the sky. Exhale, back down. Inhale. So just bring it up wherever is comfortable in your body. Exhale down. Let's do two more. Inhale, arms up. Exhale down. Last one. Inhale, hands up. Exhale down. Now let's take the hands back up on the next inhale. And then exhale, side bend to the right. Now try to think about staying really heavy into your left hip so both your sit bones stay grounded. Back into those side bends that our QL, lower back muscles, love. On an inhale, back to center. Exhale, side bend. Stay with your breath. Inhale back to center. Now bring your hands to shoulder height, still holding that strap taut, and twist to your right. Come back through center on an inhale, and twist to your left on the exhale. Good. Come back through center on your inhale. Exhale, release those hands. Just relax those shoulders. And then let's drop our hands down by our hips again. So let's work now through some shoulder shrugging. You want to move those shoulder blades up and down on our back. Now, there's a lot of fascial connections back there. And sometimes this is where people get fascial adhesions. So their shoulder blades start to get really sticky. And you do want them to be able to move up and down. So drop those shoulders away from your ears. Next inhale, I want you to shrug the shoulders right up to the ears. So you're actually bringing in tension. Exhale, drop shoulders, release. Inhale, shrug up. Exhale, drop. We're going to do two more. Inhale, shrug up. Exhale, drop. One more. Inhale, up. Exhale, release. Good. Now let's start to pay a little attention to our hands and our fingers and our wrists. Now in the yin class for the upper body, we go much more into the fascial connections. So I really recommend that. But there's also some more active ones that you can do too. So we're going to work on that now. So just bring your hands to your heart center. Palms are touching, elbows down, shoulders away from ears. So this is going to work into our wrist joint, bring our wrist joint into extension, but also activate our chest muscles. So again, there's all these fascial connections. So next, inhale, elbows point out to the sides as you push into your palms, and you should feel your pectorals in the chest ignite. Exhale, relax. Inhale, elbows out, push into your palms. Exhale, relax. Let's do one more. Inhale, elbows out, push in. Exhale, relax. Good. Now, let's work into the wrist joint in different ways. We're going to move. Your wrist joint is a funny little joint. It's called an elliptical joint. It can do lots of different movements. So now we're just going to let the pinky fingers start to travel down towards the earth. Now some people might be able to point their fingers all the way down to the earth, and others will have to stop somewhere along that journey. So you're only going to go as far as your body is comfortable with that range of motion. Breathing here. Now bring the hands back, so bringing thumbs back towards the chest. Now we're going to work into the fingers a little bit more. So your next inhale, you're going to bring your hands away from each other, but keep all of your fingers touching each other. So it's like you're holding an orange in between. So your elbows are out and you're pushing into your fingertips. Exhale, relax. Inhale, elbows out, push into your fingertips. Exhale, relax. One more. Inhale, elbows out as we push into the fingertips. Exhale, relax. Good. Let's take our hands out in front of us, palms down. We're just going to inhale, fingers to the sky. Exhale, fingers to the earth. Inhale, fingers up. Exhale, down. One more. Inhale, fingers to the sky. Exhale, fingers down. Good. Bring your fingers back up to the sky, and we'll work back into the elliptical joint that allows us to do some windshield wipers here. So you're actually also getting into your forearm muscles. So your pronators. Good. And then bring your hands and interlace them in front of your chest. Next, inhale, push the palms forward. Exhale, palms come back towards the chest. Inhale, push palms forward. Exhale, hands back in. Last one. Inhale, push. Exhale, hands back in. Good. Release your hands. Take them down into your lap, however you're seated. Palms turned up. So this next exercise is actually going to exercise our fingers, but it has a really amazing way of working on what we call proprioception. So proprioception is a sense that you might not know you have. So it's kind of somewhat like a superpower. You have it, but you're not aware of it. So basically, it's your body being able to sense where it is in space. So it's about your spatial awareness. So this is the thing that allows you to close your eyes and touch the tip of your nose with your finger, right? You're not like poking over by your eye or your ear. You know where the end of your nose is. So proprioception is a really important thing to keep active in the body. And if we don't have proprioception, some really not nice things start to happen. So here we're just going to not look at our hands, but we're going to start to bring our first finger, so pointer finger to touch the thumb and then release. Middle finger to touch the thumb and release. Ring finger to touch the thumb and release. Then pinkies to touch the thumb and release. So we're going to work through the hand now backwards. So pinkies touch the thumb, release. Ring fingers touch the thumb, release. Middle finger, pointer finger, open the hand. So here's the game now. So you're going to touch your fingertips, each one forward and back through the hand, to your thumb without looking. And if this is fairly easy for you, that's great. You're now going to do it faster. So what we do call this in yoga is finger walking. And it's a really great tool for anxiety. So the next time you're out in public, or maybe you're sitting in your car in a traffic jam and you're starting to feel a little anxious, do some finger walking. Because what this does is, while your brain is really busy figuring out where your fingers are in space, it actually calms the mind down. So how's that for a multitasking tool? Finger exercises, proprioception, strengthening, and anxiety reducing. All right, let's release those hips from whatever seat they're in and shake them out. And it's time to come off our sit cushion and come onto our mats. So if you are practicing on a bit of a hard floor and your knees need some extra padding, I encourage you to lay your blanket flat across the center of your mat. So we're going to come to tabletop. So tabletop, knees are hip distance apart, right below the hips. Hands are shoulder distance apart, right below the shoulders. Wrist creases below the shoulders. Now, if having your palms flat against your mat is not great for you, you can bear claw. So that's keeping the wrist joint straight, but pushing into the flats of your knuckles. Now, earlier we did some toe flexion. Now we're going to do some toe extensions. You're going to curl all the toes under as best you can. And then we're going to just keep our toes like that so we can get into the fascia of the sole of the foot. And we're going to do our traditional cat-cow. So we already did seated cat-cow. Let's do a traditional cat-cow, but we're going to do it very mindfully. So first and foremost is we want a neutral pelvis and a neutral spine. So imagine I came along and I put a drink right on your sacrum here and I said, don't spill it. So you'd want to have to level out your sacrum so that drink remains balanced. Now, let's hug up the lower belly muscle gently towards the spine, so get some core engagement. And now we're going to start to move from the head only. So next, inhale, lift the back of the head to the sky. Let your chest broaden as you drop your belly to the earth, and then lift your tailbone up to the sky. So here's our cow posture. Next, exhale, we're going to tuck the chin, round through the upper back, push your shoulder blades up to the earth as you push into your palms, or your knuckles, scoop up through the belly and drop your tail. Come back to neutral and balancing that drink in between. Next, inhale, head lifts, chest broaden, belly drops, tail lifts. Exhale, tuck chin, round as much as you can as you scoop up through the belly and drop your tail. Back to neutral. We're going to do two more. Inhale into the cow. Exhale into the cat. Back to neutral when you're done. Last one, inhale, back ahead lifts, chest broaden, belly drops, tail lifts. Exhale, tuck chin, round your back, scoop up belly, drop the tail. Back to neutral. Good. Release your toes, give them a wiggle out, and then grab your blocks. So we're going to start to shift a little bit more now into some of the bigger muscle groups through the lower half of the body. So you're going to bring our blocks up to the top of our mat, and we're going to come into a low lunge. So have something to pad up under your back knees. Your sit cushion will work, or your blanket. You could fold up your blanket now and make it thicker. So we're going to come into just a typical lunge. We're going to bring the right foot on the inside of the right block. Pad up under your left knee. And then we want to set up this front knee so it's in a good place and we're not hurting the cruciate ligaments in the front of the knee. So your knee is either going to be stacked over this ankle or behind the ankle. So some people will need to do this more 90-90 legs, especially if you've had hip replacement, especially anterior. You don't want to be pushing into the front of your hip. Now our goal here is to get into our hip flexors on the left side. But please be mindful if you have had a hip replacement. Stay at a 90-90 leg position. If you don't have to worry about that and you bring your hands right to your block and your chest right to your thigh. Now, the deeper the lunge, the more you're going to feel it into that front left thigh. You make a lunge deeper by taking the knee further back behind the hip. That left knee going further back is going to increase the hip flexor sensation. So find where you need to be here. Nice long spine, shoulders away from your ears, jaw relaxed, and breathe. So our hip flexors are very overworked muscles in the body, and they also tend to contribute through tightness to lower back problems. So lunges are your friend, even if you don't like them. So I like to stay a little bit longer in lunges just to really make sure we're getting into those hip flexors. We'll take one more breath here and then we're going to switch things up. So now take your blocks to their highest setting and just be really careful because they get a bit more or less stable. Now keep your left foot grounded. Try to keep the whole left sole grounded. And we're going to start to straighten that front right knee. Sorry, I said left sole, didn't I? I should say right sole. And we're going to walk the hands back so they are halfway down your mat. So what we're doing now is we're shifting our target to our right hamstring. Now you can intensify this by inhaling and getting nice and tall in that spine, and then hinging and forward folding a little or a lot, depending on your body, over that front leg. So remember, hinging means hinging from the waist, not rounding through the back. So we're keeping the spine neutral. That you're going to feel more into the real head of your hamstring, so right up beneath your glute. Now we're going to shift our target into the calf muscle. You're going to start to peel the right toes away, and you're going to start to bring your ankle into extension, toes lifting up towards the sky, so the toes can curl back even a little bit towards the shin, and you should be getting a really nice stretch right through the right calf. So if you're tight in your calves, like I am, I always have tight calves, you'll really feel this one. So remember, as always, breathing into it, making sure the breath can flow. We're not triggering our fight or flight. And then let's bring ourselves back in a controlled manner to our lunge. Just take a breath or two here. And then we're going to pick up our block and heel toe our right foot over far enough until we can take the right foot back. Set your blocks back up. And then we'll do the other side. So this time, left foot comes inside of left block. We want to set up that front knee. So either stacked right over the ankle, or if you're having to be more mindful of hip replacement, knee can be behind the ankle. More 90-90 legs. So find where you need to be here. Remember, the more the right knee is behind the right hip, the more intense you're going to feel it more into your right hip flexor grip, which is right at the top front of your thigh. Long spine if your chest is towards your thigh. Shoulders away from ears. Breath is flowing. Notice how maybe on this side you're different. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Taking our blocks up to their highest setting again. Just being mindful as we keep that entire left sole grounded and start to walk the blocks back as we slightly straighten that front leg. Now don't completely straighten it. Keep a little micro bend. And then maybe growing tall through the spine and hinging at the hips and folding over top of that front leg. If you want to intensify, feeling this into the head of the hamstring on the left side. Keep breathing. Good. Now let's peel those toes away on the left foot. Bring the toes up to the sky. Ankle into extension. Curling those toes back towards the shin maybe, and really feeling it perhaps in the left calf. And then walking ourselves back into a lunge one last time. Just keeping those hips nice and square. And then picking up your left block so you can heel toe your left foot over and take your left foot back. Take your blocks off to this side. You may need them again, so keep them handy. Come back to your sit cushion. So let's do a very traditional yoga pose. It translates from the Sanskrit as head to knee pose. By no means does your head ever need to get to your knee, but it's all about hip opening and then back line lengthening. So we're just going to, before we go into that, we're just going to do Dandasana, or seated mountain pose. So feet out, feet active. Activate your quads, so knees lift up towards your hips, hands down by your hips, so fingers are just pointing forward. You're going to push into your palms and grow nice and tall through that spine, maybe even tuck your chin. So this is seated mountain, and you should really notice how active you are here. Your belly button is slightly pulling back towards your spine, your core is active, and it actually takes a fair amount of effort to stay here like this. So we're just trying to remind the body of some alignment cues here. Now let's lift our chins and take our right leg out of Dandasana and just take a little rocking through the hip here. So we're just going to prime that right hip. And then we're going to let the right knee fall open to the side. Now if your knee's up really high, go ahead and block underneath so it feels a bit more comfortable. Right sole inside of left thigh. And then we'll take our straps and put them underneath the left ball of the foot. And we're going to sit nice and tall here, holding the strap close to the navel. So, right hip, external rotation. Lengthening down that back leg line. Now you could just stay here nice and tall, shoulders relaxed. Or you can think about taking your sternum over top of your left thigh and then lowering the sternum to the thigh. So what matters most to me, I don't care how far down you come if you take the hinge. What matters is keeping the heart in front of the shoulders. So we don't want to see rounding through the back and collapsing into the chest. Heart leads the way, gazes to your big toe. Now if you take the hinge, you're going to feel it more up that superficial back line in the body. So you're going to feel it up to the back of the leg, up through the glute, and right into your lower back. So please remember, if you have herniated or bulging discs, you must be very careful when you do any forward folding that you are not rounding your back. You must keep your back neutral. So if that's something that's really hard for you to be mindful of, stay just sitting nice and tall here. You're still going to get benefits from the pose. Coming into the hinge forward fold is just an add-on. So let's take 2 more breaths here. And then bringing yourself out of the hinge if you took it, strap off of the foot. Take a block away if you used it, and cup your right hand under your right knee and bring your right knee up to center and extend. Let's go back to Dandasana. Hands back down by the hips, fingers pointing forward, palms flat. Activate the feet, the quads, grow tall in that spine, maybe tucking the chin. Slight movement of the belly back towards the spine. Just a few breaths here as we engage and ignite our core. Lifting the chin and then taking the left leg out of Dandasana, and we'll prime that left hip just a little. And then we'll let the left knee open out. Left sole on inside of right thigh. Again, use a block to block up under that left thigh if you need to. Strap under the ball of the right foot. So either holding hands at the belly, pulling your strap taut, sitting nice and tall, shoulders relaxed. You could just stay here. Or taking the hinge, so sternum shifting over top of right thigh, and then sternum lowering towards right thigh. Gaze to your big toe on the right foot. Again, heart has to lead the way. No rounding or collapsing. Find your version of this pose on this side. Now this side could be very different. Could be easier, could be harder. We always have one side of the body that is easier or harder. And that's just from your everyday movements. You have one side of you that's dominant, right or left-handed. So just notice when you move from side to side. which side feels a little less challenging. And then you know the side that you might need to spend more time on, or do it twice on that stiffer side. Good. Let's bring ourselves out of the fold if we took it. Release the strap. Take a block away if you used it. Cup under your left knee. Bring left knee back to the sky. And extend both legs. Let's give them a little shake. So now we're going to do external rotation through both hip sockets with a pose called Baddha Konasana. So we are bringing soles of feet together, knees wide. So the more intense you want it, if you want it more intense through your inner thigh and your groin, you bring the heels closer to the groin. So if you need to make a bigger diamond, do that. And you could have somebody with their knees touching the ground. You could have somebody with their knees all the way up almost towards their ears. It's not always about flexibility. It's about how you're built through your hip setup. So find what works for you. Heels closer or further. Hands either holding around your ankles, sitting nice and tall here, or interlace the hands under the feet. Again, just make sure you don't collapse them round into your chest. That heart needs to be lifted. Shoulders relaxed, breathing, and we're just gonna let gravity do the work for us here. So externally rotating both hips, but really targeting that inner leg line, which is actually part of your deep front core. Believe it or not, it starts right down in the instep of your foot. All right, and we're going to move into a pose called Konasana now. It's about hip abduction. We're going to take the feet out as wide away from our center as comfortable. So again, target is inner leg line, but now the hips are abducting. They're also slightly externally rotating. So you can take your hand to the outer part of your thigh, just kind of roll your thighs back a little bit. Your feet stay active, toes pointing to the sky. Now some people, to stay nice and tall here, which is what we want, so we don't want you collapsing, need to put their hands back behind their hips and push into the earth and hold themselves this way. So if that's what you need to do, go right ahead. Others can stay sitting really tall with their hands on the inside of the legs. So find what you need. So hip abduction. So when do you naturally abduct your hips in your everyday movement pattern? Think about, when would you actually need to move one leg away from the midline? Well, some examples. Let's say you had to step over a puddle, or you had to sidestep over something, right? Or in my case, it's usually my cat getting in my way to do side steps. Or how about when you go to get into your car, if you are a person that moves one leg in first and then brings in the other, that's hip abduction. All right, let's take our hands back behind our hips now, lean back, bring one leg back to center, then the other, little shake out. And we're gonna go onto our back. So I want you just to bring one block with you. That's all you need. And we're going to go into a traditional yoga posture called bridge. Bridge is really good for you because it's going to help strengthen your posterior kinetic chain. So hamstrings, glutes, and lower back. So we're going to come into Ardha Shavasana, so knees are bent, feet are grounded, and We're going to take this block and put it right between our knees. Don't put it on the super skinny setting. Have it on the medium setting. Okay, so not wide, not super skinny, medium. Right between your knees. And once you've got that in place, you're going to walk your heels back a touch so that your heels are closer to your glutes. I don't want your legs out here because that's not going to be very supportive at all for your lower back. So make sure those heels are closer to your glutes. You can maybe reach down and touch them. All right, so why is the block between the knees? We're going to train these quadriceps. Again, to use our body correctly, we want to bring our core, deep front core line in. Your quads are part of that, right? So we just stretched the inner leg line. Now we want to strengthen it. So when we squeeze that block between our knees, we actually ignite our quads, especially vastus medialis. That's the inner quad. It's a very important part of our body because it's part of our deep front core line. So that's why the block is there. Now there's a few more cues you have to do to really get the benefits from this. So I want you to think about spreading your toes. And you're going to find that nice yoga tripod through your feet. Push through base of big toe, base of baby toe, center of the heel. Have your feet active and foundational right here, even though you're not using your body weight on them. Squeezing the block, right? Quads ignite. Now we want to imagine I rolled a little plump blueberry in under the small of your back and I said, gently squish the blueberry. Not pulverize it and flatten it, just a gentle squish of the blueberry. That you should feel brings in your transverse abdominis. You should feel how your corset abs, right, the ones that pull you in, actually engage here. There's another cue we can think about, those bony landmarks, the very front of our pelvis. Imagine those two hip bones, the ASIS joints, could move towards each other. They might not, but think about it happening. That brings in your entire core. Now, the last thing we have to do, that core line continues up right to the very back of your tongue. So I want you to push your tongue up to the ceiling of your mouth. Hands down by your hips, palms grounded. All right. Next inhale, you're going to lift your hips up as high as you possibly can. Hands stay grounded, shoulders are grounded, feet are grounded. Now you want to breathe here at the top. Don't hold your breath. So you should feel your hamstrings, your glutes, and your lower back, that entire posterior kinetic chain turned on, but you're also using your deep front core line. So this actually makes your core stronger too. Now nice and slow and controlled, keep squeezing the block. Slowly bring yourself back down to the earth. And then relax a little bit. So keep the block where it is, but just release your quads. Release everything that you engaged. All right. As typical in yoga, we're going to do this 2 more times. So spread the toes, ground through the tripod of the feet, base of big toe, baby toe, center of heel. Squeeze the block, engage the quads. Gentle squish of the blueberry. Maybe think about those 2 bony landmarks in front of your pelvis moving in towards each other. Push your tongue up into the roof of your mouth. Next inhale, lift as high as you can, holding all of those active cues that I just gave you. So yeah, it's hard work, and we have to train the body to work the way it's supposed to. And I promise you, if you practice this with those cues, you'll get stronger and stronger. There's only one way to go when we practice, and that's getting better. But we do have to do things properly. Now slowly bring yourself down. Keep everything active until you touch down, and then relax. Make sure that breath is flowing. We don't want to hold the breath. All right, ready for one last time. Get the tripod of the feet. Squeeze the block. Squish the blueberry. Push the tongue up. Next inhale, lifting as high as you can. It's like I came along and I pulled a belly button string up towards the ceiling and I lifted you nice and high. And just feel how active, how many parts of your body had to turn on to do this. We're fighting gravity. And we're getting nice and strong through that back line and the front line. And they work together. They're in a reciprocal relationship. All right, slowly come down. Once you're down, release that block. Extend your legs just for a moment. I just want you to bring some awareness into your back body here. See how things feel when you let go of all the alignment and that activation. And then bend back through your knees. Now take your feet wide. And we're going to finish off today with some windshield wipers. So knees drop to one side, back through center, over to the other side. So we are working back through the hips. This is internal, external rotation. And we're also bringing twist into the spine, which is really good to do after you've done back bending, which is what we were just doing in bridge. It helps bring equilibrium back into our nervous system. So when we do back bending, we actually excite the nervous system, and we just want to reset it here. And we're also just getting into our hip sockets, getting in through that outer hip area. All right, knees back through center. Now maybe you want to stay here for Shavasana. You could do constructive rest with the knees touching feet wide. Or maybe you're going to fully extend the legs. And let's release those shoulder blades to the earth. Backs of hands grounded. Let the palms turn up to the sky. Fingers gently curl. Slightly tuck your chin, lengthen down the back of your neck. Feet flopping open to the sides. Let's just take a little wiggle through the hips here. Just releasing that lower back. And let's one last time drop into our breath. Just let yourself drop right back into that diaphragmatic breath. Feel that expansion on the inhale. Body releasing tension on the exhale. Now let's take 3 cleansing breaths just to set ourselves up for Shavasana. And signaling the end of the practice. So inhale nose. Exhale out the mouth. Inhale nose. Exhale side out. Last inhale, let it come from the soles of the feet, travel all the way up to the crown of the head. And when you exhale, completely empty those lungs. Let that breath go. close the mouth. Unclench the back teeth. Release the tongue into lower palate of the mouth. Let the muscles through the face relax, cheeks, temples. Smooth out those worry lines on the forehead. Eyes getting heavy in the sockets if the eyes are closed, and if they're not, just soften the gaze down to the tip of your nose. Tops of shoulders melting away from ears, shoulder blades dense, heavy, melting into your mat. Sacrum dense and heavy, melting into the earth. Arms like they just filled up with warm, heavy sand. Pelvis full of sand. Legs full of warm, heavy sand. Let your whole back body feel heavy and sinking into the earth. Earth is holding you. There's nothing you need to do here. And through the belly, let there be a softness. Space through the heart center. Softness through the throat center. And then let your awareness just shift up to that space between your eyebrows into the third eye, mind's eye. Just let your awareness rest here. There's stillness. There's quiet within. And just let yourself rest here for as long as you need today. Staying here in this moment just a little bit longer.